and with where your company is at now and what you're working on now. And I want to talk about the Quiet Canadians here, but specifically this new studio model, I guess is a way to put it, or this new audience building model that we're all dealing with right now. Let's dive into that. So what are you doing right now with the Quiet Canadians and Habathy Films in 2025? Like, how are you approaching this film? And tell us more about the film, obviously, and let's dive into those details.
So Quiet Canadians is it's a modern day Canadian spy thriller. That's basically the gist of the thing. And it's about a Canadian Black Ops agent who finds himself being targeted for assassination. And in trying to uncover who's targeted him for assassination, he uncovers corruption in the Canadian government and in the American government. And it's called The Quiet Canadians. It's based on a book actually written by a person that we talked to a few years ago. It's all narrative, it's all fictional. So this is not based on a true story at all. But we read the book and we thought this could make a great movie. Now, the book was written about 20 years ago, so we've adapted it for modern times. We're doing a lot of research into modern tech and all this other stuff. So how we're approaching the film, the first thing we decided to do is we were like, okay, so first of all, do people want to see this? Can we get enough of a sample size of people who would like to see a movie like this or who would be interested in seeing a movie like this? So we talk about the audience-focused approach to things. We were like, okay, well, spy thrillers, yes, no, but sometimes it's very star dependent and so on. And like obviously if you have Tom Cruise in your film, people might want to see it or something like that. Or if it's a James Bond movie. Well, this is a very relatively quiet intellectual property that doesn't have a lot of that to it. So what else can we bring to it that's going to make it bigger and better in scope and in feeling, and what's going to attract people to it? So one of the things we did was we said, okay, we're going to make this a cross Canada chase. Basically, it starts in Vancouver, it goes across the country to Ottawa, to Halifax, and so on. So we're going to take this film and turn it into a roadshow film where we tour the country almost as a movie. But the idea being that it's not, and again, it's not meant to be gimmicky in that way. Like, we created this story so that it like we have to go coast to coast. It only makes sense. The idea being then to create this visual landscape that very few movies ever present, unless they present it as this see the Canadian country, supernatural this, supernatural that, with like beautiful scenery and everything like that. We want to go to all the cities and like film them in a unique and interesting way, the way that they've never been seen before. And the idea is to set key scenes in each city that actually like are plot driven and story driven and character driven. The production design, the visual elements, and all of that, the production value of the film comes from, they have a scene here in Halifax that takes place, they run by an iconic monument or something like that. It's like that taking that Bourne Identity, Mission Impossible idea and adapting it all for Canada, and then reverse engineering for us. How do we do it with the resources we have? We are trying to get more money for this. This isn't good, just like, work on weekends and then pay for the crew. We know we have to get some more money for it. And what we're approaching that as is we're going, okay, so there demand for something like this. And one of the things we've done is we've done lots and lots of research, not just like market research by Googling it online, but we've actually talked to people and gone like, is this interesting to you? Is this interesting to you? And gotten a lot of like positive response from both Canadian brands who might be interested in putting their stuff in the film or being associated with the film, potential investors. And we've talked about, bringing investors on to to projects, and like, what do you offer them that isn't just ROI, but something else? And so this idea of like being part of a cultural investment, not just a financial investment. And then obviously leveraging the tax credits. And for us, a lot of this comes down to the researching of like, what do different provinces offer in tax credits, and how can we maximize the use of them in each place? And can we, in fact, do that? And then one of the rules that we set for ourselves is this has to be a 100% Canadian production. Every actor, every crew member, music, everything is going to be 100% Canadian. Even the brands that we have associated with it are Canadian. We want to make sure they're Canadian brands. Now, 2 years ago, I think this was a hard sell. This last year, it has become almost like you need to do it this way.
With the political landscape, what it is, the how Canadians have banded together with like national pride, of not becoming the 51st state and standing up for what it means to be Canadian.
Yeah, and the funny part is our story actually, I mean, without giving anything away about our story, but our story without it even being intentional, because we wrote this not with the current political climate in mind, but we wrote it, and now we look at the story and we're like, the story, almost every theme in the story bases around this idea of national identity, this idea of also like differentiating ourselves from what America is versus Canada is. And that was not as a result, as a response to what's going on. This idea of this audience driven, fan driven approach to things is that we've worked elements into the script to kind of take advantage of certain ideas that come about because of the modern things that are happening. But we're also building that fan drive towards, oh, this film has to be made. This film has to be made now. We just did a casting call a month ago for the lead character and the top three supporting characters. We were working with our casting director, and she said, "You guys are going to flip out when you see how many people have applied for this job, for these roles." And we are now looking at like almost like it's well over 700 people who've auditioned for these roles, and they're all Canadian, 100% Canadian. It just kicks me in the heart is every one of their slates, like when they slate for the camera, they say, my name is this, I'm blah 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 blah, I'm blah blah, I'm UBCP or whatever, this union, and then they say, and I am Canadian. And so we were talking about this the other day, and we were saying like it's this idea of like we're almost outing everybody. Like we're saying like make your be proud, say you're Canadian, because that's actually what we want. We want you to be a proud Canadian in this film. And I mean, ultimately, in the end, like we're this is a spy thriller with there's potential for franchise, all the franchising opportunities and things like that are obviously there. But the real key is like we're like, look, like imagine if we were Eon Productions at the beginning of the James Bond series, taking a novel series by a relatively well-known author, but still not famous yet. Imagine if you're trying to put together this like Doctor No is the first film, so putting together Doctor No, and now you're looking for the X Factor actor who's going to play the lead role of James Bond. I was like, that's what we're looking for. And the great part, what we have discovered just watching some of the early auditions, is not only our rephrasing is it's not that they have to be Canadian, it's that holy crap, Canada has so many amazing, talented actors to the point where we can't even like we've watched some of the auditions already, and it's going to take us a month to get through the ones that we've gotten so far. Like we're watching 3 to 4 hours a day, and it's still going to take us about a month. We did the math, and just to be able to see that, and so this just reinforces our idea that look, Canada needs its own thing. We are a great service industry. We have, and you and I both work in that service industry, but we need our own thing. Part of what, this podcast and part of everything that we've been doing to talk about this, there's a lot of ways to fix it. There's a lot of ways to do the thing, but ultimately in the end, what we need is we need to create films that engage and entertain, but also start to fill in the gaps of what is Canadian identity? What does a Canadian film really mean? And the great part about that is that we don't have to make it monolithic. As people have been saying lately, it's like what differentiates Canada from the States? The States is a melting pot. Canada is a mosaic. Because Canada is a mosaic, it means that all of our films do not have to be the same. But what we need to do is we need to elevate them. These films need to be the kind of films that internationally people want to watch. So what we've decided to do with this fan driven approach is we're getting people interested in the film before we've made it. So building the audience right now. And we've had podcasts with like Darren and Darren Smith and some other people who are like building that audience right from the start. That was never a question for us, but now we're like really leaning heavily into it. Like this casting call, the fact that it brought us 700 audition tapes, like that's people putting time in, like actors putting time into preparing something for us, and people and we've had actors literally saying, I really want this role, like in their slate. They're like, I really resonate with this role. I would love to do this role. This is great. And a lot of people say that, but I'm like, I really feel it through what we've been watching. To honor that, we're also honoring it by like we're watching every single one, because we're like, look, if someone put the time to put in, we're watching it. We're making sure we give them every ounce of our attention at all times. But the great part about that is it shows just the sheer demand for fun Canadian films or good Canadian films to be a part of, not just to be a part of, but I think also to watch. And so we were talking the other day, and one of the things we're doing now is we're also thinking about like, okay, so we've got the beginning parts figured out. Helene and I, because we've been producers and we good ADs, we know how to structure the film. The hard part now is how do we get it out to people? So we're already planning the theatrical release of the film, festival or no festival. We want it to do obviously as well as it can do, but we're planning how we're going to roll out the theatrical, what that's going to mean.
Are you talking to distributors right now, or are you planning to self-distribute theatrically?
Yeah, well, we're indie. We, like we were saying before, we're like, what we're going to do is we're going to create a plan for how we want this film to go out, and we're going to see who wants to come on board the plan. We're creating our own theatrical plan, our release plan, how we plan to do it, basically a windowing plan for our film. We're going to fine tune it, make it really good, make it very much about honoring the fact that what we want to do is we want to make sure that that we want to do the roadshow theatrical, but we've got other plans for how that's going to work. And we're going to take our distribution plan to people who can help us execute that, who might be in better positions to execute that. And we're going to say, this is what we want to do. Can you help us do it this way? Not let them tell us how they're going to do it. We have smart people around us. Like we brought in a couple of producers, Leah and Tegan. Tegan's worked in marketing. She's an actress, and she's done marketing all, for the last 10-15 years. She's built a marketing company. She understands marketing. She understands the film industry and producing, and she's been an actress in the film industry since she was a kid. And then Leah has been a production coordinator. She's producing a lot of indie films and so on. And so everybody's bringing to the table this sort of wealth of experience. But what we've said is that there are no sacred cows in this business. Whenever someone tells us, well, this is the way you're supposed to do it, we're like, well, why? You have to tell us, you have to explain to us why that's a good reason to do it. So we're not discounting distributors. We're not discounting any of that, sales agents or anything like that. And this isn't meant to be a middle finger to any of them. It's more to say, look, like we do, and we don't think we're smarter than everybody, but what we do want to do is we want to sit there and say, look, like if indie film has a hard time breaking through, it's because we haven't figured out how to break through yet. And the only way to break through, to figure out how to break through with more independent films, is to come at it from a different angle. You have to come at it differently. You have to basically say, well, what makes sense? And for us, this makes sense.
Yeah, the way I'm looking at it as well, we're on the same page here. With my own film, not that we've gotten this question, but I'm sure it'll come up eventually. It's like, well, why don't you hire, this person who's been doing this for 30 years this way? And I'm like, well, the model that this person is used to doesn't work anymore. So we actually need to find people who can find different ways in and different ways to do things. And that's the way that I'm looking at this. And like, just because a distribution model worked this way for the last 60 years doesn't mean that it's going to work for this film now. And it's a bit of the Wild West out there. So really start to question, why is this happening? Why is it this way? And how do we cater it for our film and for our project?
Yeah, and if you're going to fail on your terms. The one thing we'll point to always is that if we make a mistake, or if we make lots of mistakes, we've made lots of mistakes. We made lots of mistakes on 13 Miles. I made lots of mistakes making that documentary. But the mistakes I made are my mistakes, and the great part about that is you learn from your mistakes, but then you pivot. And if you're going to fail on your terms. Don't fail because someone else took it from you. And then I hear so many filmmakers come back to us. Everybody I've talked to comes back and says, we wanted to do it this way, but they felt it would be this way, and then it didn't turn out, or it didn't go the way we wanted it to. Well, then we need to take control of it all. And again, I'm happy to take advice from people. I just don't. I'm not smart enough to do this all on my own, and that's why I have partners. That's why I have friends and people who I look up to and mentors. You said it perfectly. Like, it's been done this way for 30 years. It might have worked in 1990, but it doesn't work now, or it might not work now. It's not working the same way now. YouTube didn't exist 30 years ago. Streaming didn't exist 30 years ago. DVDs existed 30 years ago. They don't exist now. A lot of the models are built around the idea of you getting that theatrical release that leads to a pay-per-view deal and then some DVDs in a Blockbuster shelf one day. And that's not around anymore. So if we're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, we're fighting a battle that can't be won. I think for us, the opportunity exists because the technology is there. With the prohibitive stance on making a film so many years ago, even when the Reds came in, it's like it was just so expensive still. We have LED lights now, right? Like we have whereas before we had all these much bigger lights. And I'm not saying that if you have the ability to use professional, like more bigger lighting systems, and it makes sense for your story, by all means, go ahead and do it. But a lot of what we've set up is built around this idea of having you needed a big crew because you shot on film. The film needed to be exposed properly and everything needed to be done in a very specific way because and you were also shooting on film, which meant you weren't going to see the footage for 3 days after you shot it. Well, we can see the footage immediately. We can do a lot of things differently now than we did when we first started making films. It doesn't, you can take some of the best practices of filmmaking and apply them to today's model and take what YouTubers are doing and basically how are they producing their films. And I'm not saying we need to make YouTube videos, but how are they making their stuff? Like what technology are they using?
Yeah, the filmmaking process has been democratized, right? And so the fact that all of the equipment now is affordable, it's within reach. The focus is not now, can I get my hands on a camera and make a movie? If that's easy. Now it is, what's the best film I can make? Because like, and that comes down to story. First of all, you have to be able to tell it because now the flood of movies out there. Even I scroll through Netflix and all the streamers, and I'm going, there are so many movies. Why are there so many movies? First of all, like not all of them are good. And I get it. But we should all have a chance to make movies. But because there are so many, it really comes down to storytelling. But then on top of that, almost more importantly, is how do you get me to click on your movie or go see your movie in the theater now? And so in way more of a sense, it's about marketing. Because like we've talked about before, distribution's easy. I can throw my movie up onto YouTube. How do I get people to watch it? And this also ties into the whole AI argument about people freaking out over Google's VO3 or whatever that is, and AI making movies. And I'm like, you're going off of the assumption that just because it's created that it will be watched. An AI video still has just as much of a problem of being seen as any other person making a video. It's just another creator. And so I'm like, and first of all, it doesn't look as good as real life, and the acting is dead, and people are blown away by the audio and video versions of VO. And I'm like, this is some of the worst acting I've ever seen. It's dead. There's nothing to it. So it still has a long way to go. It's lifeless. So again, just because it's created doesn't mean that it will be watched. Right now, the biggest problem that we're facing is marketing.
Marketing and standing out as a good film. Like we've talked about this. It's like, well, what would be success for Quiet Canadians? Success is we make the movie for a budget that allows our investors and the people, the stakeholders in the film to make their money back plus a profit. Knocking it out of the park is they make 10 times their investment back. But the other part of the success is we make a film that stands the test of time, is recognized as being a well-made film. And so I think you said the number they say what is the number one thing on a film is the story worth watching. And that's number one. Second is the execution of it. And yeah, the tools are there to the technical advances are there that can make it a lot easier these days. But I would put a really solid cinematographer on anything I did because if the cinematographer and the key creative team help execute that story in an excellent way, not just in a this fits way. Like we can all make mediocre movies. Like that's fine. We can all try. I say we have an obligation now to try to hit it out of the park with every single movie we make it the best thing we can possibly do. And if we fail again on our own terms. If we try to hit it out of the park and it doesn't work, you know what? You tried, it didn't work, but you still tried. You took a risk, and I'd rather have a film that was universally hated than a film that was universally ignored. And so, that's the thing where it's like when we talk with our cinematography, we talk with everything. It's like be daring. Like if like just because you get the typical action movie music in your films, like let's not look at typical action movie music in our film. If I type in AI and get AI to create a score for me, they can create a score for a spy film, but it's going to be just like every other score that's out there for spy films. It's going to be a merging of all these things with a little Mission Impossible here and a little James Bond here and everything like that. It's like, well, okay, so if that's possible, then 20 people can do that at the same time. What's going to make ours better? It's story, acting, and the execution of all the pieces together. What makes a best picture in my mind is something that brings all the elements of a film together and in one cohesive element: the music, the production design, the costumes, stunts, and then it all serves the story, and then you give it to the actors, and the actors are like, they are the best production value of any movie is good actors in your film, because without that, I'm not saying stars, I'm saying good actors, like people who can actually imbue the roles that you give them and bring life to it all. And that's the thing, AI can't bring life to it. AI is as good as me reading the dialogue from my script. I am not a, AI can, if we just need someone to read the dialogue from the script and pretend to act out the pieces, I could do that myself. I need my Sean Connery out there to really like bring the charm and the charisma and the joie de vivre to that role, because that's what's going to inspire people and engage people and make people want to come and watch it, make people want to watch it 4 times. That for me is what our bar should be. That